Hamlet 400 Not Out is the topic of our discussion today. I want to approach Hamlet from a new light without, uh, you know, canceling the existing body of knowledge and criticism, but just an addition, you know, as much as can be achieved through a YouTube video. Now, it was published in the year 1600. So today, it's 2020, 20th November of 2020, anyway. So actually 420 years have passed. But 420 is not a good word in Indian English. So that's why I have chosen the title to be 400 Not Out, though it should have been 420 Not Out. But then it would imply that Hamlet is a 420 in Indian English, which he is not. His uncle rather is. And in between, he had to do some kind of a 420 giri, as we say, to outwit two spies, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Now, 420 is a specific provision in the Indian Penal Code. It has many provision 1, 2, 3. We had a lot of debate till 2018 about 377, which prohibits unnatural sexual intercourse. Similarly, 420, is an act under IPC which makes forgery, fraudulence, cheating, etc. punishable. From that, in Indian English, the term has become 420. I mean, the term 420 is taken to imply, used to imply a cheat or a fraud. So the English people do not know. Anyway, now the approach that I have in mind is that of relationship. These days, everyone is busy with relationship, especially life is now totally run by social media for common people. And after COVID, it is all the more so. We are all 24/7 almost. We even say the urban middle class, upper middle class, rich class, etc., student, young people. Okay, so often, then the relationship is a very interesting issue. Suddenly, someday you will find some of your friend telling I'm in a relationship. Again, in some status or about in Facebook relationship, they will say it's complicated. It's complicated. So in a way, that is probably a fit term for Hamlet if we look at it as a play of relationships. It's not only complicated, it's very, very complicated. So let me approach the play from this point of view. The first complicated relationship is in the family of Hamlet. Hamlet's father, who is old Hamlet, his mother Gertrude, and Hamlet, these three kind of nuclear family. Now, Hamlet was studying in Germany when he in a German university, because they are the oldest in Europe, during which, okay, let us say in another state, another university. So during his absence, his father, old Hamlet, who is a king, he died. But then immediately after that, his mother Gertrude hastily married Hamlet's uncle Claudius. So what kind of a relationship is this? Yes, while it is true that marrying a brother-in-law, etc., is not prohibited in Christian law, at one point of time in India also such systems were there. If you read the Ramayana, for example, Ravan's wife Mandodari marries Vibhishan after Ravan's death. Sugriv's, Bali's wife Tara becomes Sugriv's wife, and in fact, the whole fight between Bali Sugriv is also due to the fact that Sugriv's wife Ruma was actually, forcibly captured by Vali, the elder brother, according to the major versions. There are of course many versions of Ramayana, but I am talking about Valmiki Ramayana, which I consider to be the authentic version, because there is No other written record of the text available which predates Balmiki's version, which is academically and scholarly correct. Uh, Political correctness is a different thing. Other Ramans are copies of it. It is possible that Balmiki may not have composed it himself. The story was already there in the culture. He just, manipulated it in certain ways. In the same way again, Hamlet is not something entirely written by Shakespeare. It was an old play called Hamlet, a Germanic play rather, of the entire Germanic origin, Scandinavia, etc. Germanic continuum, I can say. Uh, that old Hamlet. In that again, most of the things are similar, but it is not a tragedy in the sense that in that play Hamlet, Amleth, outwits the king and other things, and finally he becomes the king. So Shakespeare's duty was also to make a great tragedy out of, an play which existed with happy ending. Anyway, let us go back to the problem of relationship. So if the queen marries the king as soon as the husband is dead, she can hardly wait, then it means the relationship between the king and queen was not good. To the contrary, there was a good relationship between a king's brother and queen. It appears so, prima facie. There can be other interpretations to fear, etc., but there is no such indication given. Hamlet resents it when he comes back. For a son, difficult to accept mother's marriage to the brother of his own father. That means Hamlet's relation with mother is not good and his mother is not good, and that with uncle, his uncle Claudius, is worst. Uncles can be very good as well as very dangerous. We have dangerous uncles, especially mamas in Indian epics also. That could be, chachas also. As we have Shokuni, Kalnemi, Ravan's mama. So Kangsa, Krishna's mama. At the same time, Duryodhana and other people who would be uncles of Pandava's sons and daughters. No daughters, sons basically. He gets them killed at the end, five sons of Arjuna and others, after his thighs are broken. Duryodhan, as a revenge against killing of his brother. So, and problem of relationship, you know, as in King Lear, but here it's much more complicated. So people have tried to read Oedipus complex into Hamlet's psyche. Oedipus complex, according to Freud, at a particular stage, every male child, grows a kind of fascination or let's say sexual love for the mother, but for the fear of the father, you know, it's repressed or suppressed. Some people outgrow the stage. Those who do not outgrow, they have several problems in later life, especially related to sex and sexuality. They cannot accept it as it is, etc., etc. I'll have to make a separate video on that anyway. So the basic problem is the relation between the father, old Hamlet, the mother Gertrude, and Hamlet. These three, though we do not get the family together because the king existed before the play begins. We call it antecedent, but it is clearly visible from whatever follows that it was not a good family in terms of understanding. So, problem of relationship. Now, at another level, there is a huge relationship problem like your Facebook and WhatsApp, etc., between Hamlet and Ophelia. Ophelia is the daughter of Polonius. Who is Polonius? Is a courtier of King Claudius. He talks a lot, garrulous, but then says that you should not talk more. Maybe like me, we will. So he says, "Lend everybody thy ears, but few thy voice." He tells his son Laertes, but he keeps talking all the time. Anyway, his daughter Ophelia is deeply in love with Hamlet, but for a very long time, in fact, until Ophelia dies, actually we or the audience do not know that Hamlet also loved Ophelia. That is a problem. In many cases these days we have one-sided relation in Hindi movies and all, in real life also, you know, space if mera hak hai, those kind of videos keep is pathetic also. If one-sided affair you are in, you should come out as soon as possible. So for a long time, Ophelia's love for Hamlet was one-sided because she was all in love, but Hamlet's primary motive was to take revenge of what? Of his father's murder. Now we come to the crux of the issue. It is not only that, as I've said, that his father had died and his mother married the uncle, but in all possibility or likelihood, the father was murdered by the uncle in a kind of mini Mahabharata or mini Ramayana. So this brothers' relationships are also in problem. Okay, one brother does not tolerate another. So from the beginning of history, Kauravas, Pandavas, or Cain and Abel in the Bible, so brothers are others. Now, so murdered, and Hamlet would not have known it if a ghost had not told him. Ghost of his father appears before him when he returns and says that avenge, I was murdered. So then he knows. Now this is a problem for the modern men. We don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe, unless it's a very horrific situation. There is no electricity for a long time, and I am alone. Then I also tend to believe because that is because. But otherwise, in normal circumstances, I don't believe. So anyway, so we do not believe. But you have to remember it was the 16th century, then people believed. And it can also be explained away by two other things, that it may be his own psychological projection, as we say in case of Macbeth also, the witches of Macbeth. He sensed there was something wrong in the father's killing and the hasty marriage of the mother with the uncle, and that feeling itself maybe you can say that represented as ghost. Or it can be, it occurred to me for a long time, but I never made it public. Some third person knew about the things. Likely, I don't know whether any Shakespeare critic has said this. So that, I mean, I'm taking the incident as real, like Bradley. That is again another criticism against Bradley approach anyway, but so any third person may have known it or seen it, so he may have come as a ghost, appeared and disappeared, passing on the information. Because by any other means, if you pass on the information, the king would finally know and check. The informer will also be killed. So this is that is not my feature. So we've seen problem within family, father, mother, son, misunderstanding, problem between lover and beloved, one-sided and all, for which Ophelia finally commits suicide. And then Hamlet says that I loved Ophelia once, and 40,000 brothers could not equal my love. Something like that, referring to Laertes, Ophelia's brother, Polonius' son. Now, there is a problem there. And then the king and his brother, they are in a trouble relationship. And then in addition, now we come to the fact of false friends. Hamlet, when knows all these things from the ghost, and he says, but then he is also a Renaissance man. We have to remember, like Faustus, Marlowe's Faustus. He says that he will not believe or will not come to a conclusion based on the ghost's thing only. He says, I will have grounds more relative than this. The play is the thing wherein I will catch the conscience of the king. So there will be a play. So there is a play within the play, So in which Murder of Gonzago, I think, if I remember correctly, there is a stage set in which the king, queen all come, and then there is a play in which it is shown that the king in the play is sleeping in the garden and his queen kills him by poisoning him through the ear. In medieval times, the practice was there that when you were sleeping, you need not be made to drink or eat poison. It can be put inside your ear and then kill. And the king got killed in the play. Seeing this, the king King Claudius got very disturbed and he left the play at that moment. And Hamlet took this as a confirmation of his guilt that he had murdered his father and the king's own brother, the old Hamlet. And after that, I'm not giving a summary as such. And then finally, after everything, a fencing match. Fencing, like duel, it was a practice, it was a duel in the medieval times. One could challenge another, that fight me in a duel. So a fencing is there, and between two Hamlet and Ophelia, who committed suicide, her brother Laertes, in which they are supposed to challenge each other. And the king also is notoriously there, queen also in their presence, and not very notoriously and conspiratorially, he had mixed poison in a cup of wine, which supposedly Hamlet will come and drink when he's tired of the fight. And Laertes also actually had poisoned his sword, so that whenever he hits Hamlet, Hamlet is poisoned. So no chance for Hamlet's escape. They will not kill Hamlet directly. Then people or public will protest, or king will win. So this kind of subtle ways, because if fencing or duel is a fair thing by medieval standards, and if you drink a cup of wine and then suffer because there was poison, nobody can say that this or this person put poison there. Those are not the forensic days anyway. So that way they do it. But as luck would have it, there is always this twist of destiny in Shakespeare's plays as well as in life. While they're hurting each other, Hamlet and Laertes' swords get exchanged in between. Suddenly they fall and exchange. So unknowingly, the Laertes is getting poisoned by this attacks from Hamlet, and the queen unknowingly drinks the cup of wine, thinking that unsuspectingly. So finally, what happens is that Laertes is killed, and Hamlet also kills the king before he dies. The queen dies of drinking. In between, Ophelia's father Polonius had also died, because once Hamlet was talking to his mother, advising and scolding, and someone was listening from behind a curtain. "I smell a rat," said Hamlet, and suddenly pushed his rapier. He thought it was the king, but then from behind, the Polonius died. So Polonius, Laertes, everyone dies. In between, the king had also sent Hamlet to England with two spies, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So don't believe your friends always. So they posed as friends, but they were enemies. That is also another problematic relationship, friendship. So Shakespeare exposes it all. And with them, a letter was given to the King of England that King of England should kill them. Hamlet, in between, he had to become clever. That's why he said that he became for 20 at one point of time. But if to outwit other for 20, so you have to be one, it's good, I think, Machiavellian way. We cannot be Gandhian always. So he saw it, intercepted the letter, he changed the language, where it was that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are to be killed by the king, not Hamlet, and that way they also get killed. So finally, the stage is a stage full of dead bodies. Two or three, like Polonius, had died earlier, Polonius and Ophelia, and then finally all dead bodies on the stage. So that is the tragedy of Hamlet. And for 400 years now, 420, people love its theme, its poetry, and this Hamlet's famous soliloquy, probably the most famous Shakespearean lines. To be or not to be, that is the question. There has been interpretations after interpretations of this, you know, or uh, Hamlet's exclamation about men, which I take as an example of Shakespeare's giving voice to the Renaissance idea of men taking both the sides. Hamlet says, for example, "What a piece of work is man, how noble is reason," he wonders. But finally there is doubt. What is man? Is quintessence of dust or paragon of virtues? On this I need to speak a little. Quintessence of dust is the religious view of man. In the Bible it is there. From dust thou art, to dust thou shalt return. Hinduism, Islam, everything. Because religion is basically about other world. you know of course we have to do certain things in this world for us, but that we have greater profits in that world for that. So man is, we say in folk songs in Assam, মানব দেহা মাটির ভাণ্ড, ভাঙলে হবে খণ্ড খণ্ড, ভাঙলে দেহা জোড়া নেবে না। That is, human body is a earthen vessel. If once broken, you cannot put it together again. So that means death is certain and all that. So that kind of thing. So that was a death-centered attitude. People chanting, praying, always looking at heaven and what will happen by and large, and by which the culprits or the thugs kept people under control. But Renaissance brought the other view, that why are you even bothered about a world about which nobody knows? So focus on this world, this life, and try to develop your all your virtues as much as you can. So maybe that I am giving whatever I little I know in YouTube is also a kind of renaissance exercise. So then man can be paragon of virtues. You can learn fencing, singing, writing, so many things like the ancient Greeks and Romans. No need to always think about heaven and death, God, etc. That is bogus according to Renaissance. So, but then there was doubt which one is correct, like because it has Renaissance come, but it is very difficult to have a complete break with the past for a very long time. So Hamlet is in doubt whether man is a quintessence of dust, which is the biblical view, or is a paragon of virtues, which is the Renaissance view. So anyway, so there are views, there are opinions, there are philosophies. So it's very very interesting. So all of you should and must read at least Hamlet, Shakespeare's play. And this to be or not to be, if we take the common meaning as is interpreted by majority of the critics, is the entire existentialist philosophy put into you know put in a few words, whether existence is worthwhile at all, or we should finish our lives. Hamlet's dilemma, whether to kill the king or not kill the king, you know uh, this whether should act on the ghost's advice on that. These are common with everyone, with due respect to postmodernism. Postmodernism doesn't believe in universality. So anyway, but the general view, we all are not postmodernists. So we believe that certain issues that Hamlet has raised, the play Hamlet, are very universal. Or man's distrust of women due to his mother's ditching his father and marrying the killer uncle. Hamlet, becomes almost a misogynist. So that another famous quote, frailty, thy name is woman. That is, women are weakness and dubiousness personified. Now, is that Shakespeare's view? Women? I don't think so. It is Hamlet's view, which forms part of Shakespeare's worldview, but there are other views, woman-centric views in plays like Merchant of Venice, or look at Ophelia's thing. So it's a bad practice, with ultra-feminist or any kind of ultra-activist, ultra-post-core, ultra this, or that since Hamlet said, frailty thy name is woman, we should ban Hamlet, burn Hamlet, and that doesn't help anything. You have to understand life in its totality. So everyone is not a feminist, though they should be. I agree with that, but practical it is that it is not. And the time is when feminism had not emerged. So we have to look into these things, engage and re-engage, as Bacon said, to weigh and consider. So I think, in my own modest way, I have made my point that Hamlet is basically a problem play of, or a play with problem of a relationship. And all relationships in the play are not only it's complicated, but it's very very complicated. I don't know if Facebook has an option like that. I don't think so. There's it's only complicated. So if there is a Facebook for Hamlet and all, so Zuckerberg should include that option also. That's very very complicated, not only complicated. Thank you. Wish you all the best.